I caught my wife cheating, so I exposed her affair partner's marriage. I feel completely lost. I do not know what to do. Looking back, the warning signs were there, but I ignored them. I was too in love to see the truth staring me in the face. Never in my worst nightmares did I think she would do this to me, the woman I married, my partner for almost 20 years, my best friend. I work out of town, and I was not supposed to be home until tonight. We had planned to leave for a road trip tomorrow, just the two of us. Work was slow, so I figured I would surprise her by coming home early. I thought she would be happy. This trip was supposed to be a chance for us to reconnect. Lately, life had been pulling us in different directions: family obligations, social events, work. I thought we needed this time together. I never imagined I would come home and find out that she had already found someone else. When I pulled into the driveway, there was a pickup truck parked outside. One I had never seen before. It was odd, but I did not overthink it at first. A few days earlier, my neighbor had asked me what I thought of my wife's new truck. I thought he was confused, so I brushed it off. But now, standing there, looking at this truck in my driveway, something in my gut twisted. I told myself I was being paranoid. I trusted my wife. She would never betray me. But that feeling in my stomach would not go away. I walked around to the side of the house, toward our bedroom window. It was cracked open, and as I got closer, I heard them. I did not want to believe it, but the sounds made it undeniable. I forced myself to look inside. And there they were. On our bed. Completely naked. I turned around and walked away. I wanted to do something. Anything. But I knew whatever I did next could not be undone. I got in my truck and drove straight to my family's old cabin. I did not tell anyone where I was going. I just needed to be alone. I spent the night drinking until I could not feel anything anymore. Today, I started driving back home, ready to confront her. But halfway there, I changed my mind. I am not ready. The anger in me is boiling over, and I do not trust myself to keep it together. So I turned around and went back to the cabin. Now I am just sitting here, staring at a bottle of rum. 60 ounces of liquid oblivion. I want to drown in it, to make this all disappear for a while. But I also do not want to wake up tomorrow having done something stupid. This is one of those moments in life where every decision matters. What I do next will shape the rest of my future. That is why I am here. I need help. I am not ready to talk to family or friends. I do not want to hear their pity, their I told you so's, or their outrage on my behalf. I just need to say this somewhere. To strangers. Because right now, I do not know what else to do. Update: I caught my wife cheating. The response I have received has been overwhelming. I never expected so many people, complete strangers, to care about my situation. It is honestly making me emotional just knowing that there are still good people out there. It gives me a little hope in a moment when I need it the most. The only downside is that I cannot keep up with all the messages. I have over 600 private messages and hundreds of comments. I want to reply to every single one of you, but it is going to take time. For now, just know that I appreciate every single one of you. Some people have asked for clarification, so here are a few things I want to clear up. When I said my wife was my best friend, I meant that she was the person I trusted the most. The guy she was cheating with is not my best friend, nor is he someone I know personally. From the little I saw of him, I do not recognize him at all. We do not have kids, though we had been talking about trying soon. We had just sold our house and were supposed to move closer to my job in a couple of months. I planned to thank my neighbor for unknowingly tipping me off, but subtly, just as he had done for me. A lot of people have asked about red flags I missed. Now that I think back, there were plenty. I just ignored them. Here are some things that, in hindsight, should have been warning signs. She was texting unusually late at night. She started going out for after-work drinks a lot more than usual. This was not like her, but I was just happy she was being social. She claimed she was going to yoga once a week, but I later found out she was not even paying for it. A co-worker of hers was supposedly the instructor, and she was helping with setup and cleanup. I always thought it was odd because, for someone who did yoga, she was not very flexible. We always answered each other's phones if one of us was closer to it. Lately, she had been getting a lot of unknown caller hang-ups. If I picked up, they would immediately hang up. She told me it was just spam calls, but looking back, I should have known better. Update: my brother arrived. When my brother, Mark, showed up, we had a long talk. He has always been there for me, and this moment made me realize how lucky I am to have him. I need to remember that he is my real best friend. He has never judged me and never will. I know he would do anything for me, just like I would for him. Since I was supposed to be home last night, I decided to message my wife to keep up appearances. At work, we are not allowed to have our phones, so it made sense that she had not heard from me all day. I texted her and said that I had to travel to one of my company's remote sites and would not be able to call until the weekend. I told her I would cancel our hotel reservations and rebook later. Her response? She told me she could take her best friend with her instead. To the romantic bed and breakfast I had booked for us. I knew she was lying. I knew it was not her best friend she wanted to take. So I lied right back. I told her I had already given the reservation to Mark and his wife since it was non-refundable and they would pay me back later. This morning, I canceled every single reservation except the romantic one. Mark is coming with me. Luckily, the hotel let us switch from a honeymoon suite to a room with 2 beds. There is also a lake nearby with boat rentals, so our trip just turned into a long overdue fishing weekend. Now, I have a few days away from her. No texts, no phone calls, no forced conversations. I need this time to think. Right now, I cannot see any way forward except divorce. Mark supports me but has asked me to take a few weeks and speak to someone first. His wife has a friend who was a marriage counselor and offered to talk to me on Monday. I do not think it will change my mind, but maybe it will help me sort through all of this. I also plan to take everyone's advice and speak to a lawyer just to be prepared. I have never thought of my wife as someone who would try to screw me over in a divorce, but I also never thought she would cheat on me. At this point, I need to be prepared for anything. For now, I am just going to try and enjoy my weekend. She thought she was getting away with it, now she knows better. When she texted me back, she had the nerve to suggest that she could just take her best friend with her on the romantic weekend getaway I had planned for us. The one I booked. The one meant for us to reconnect. I knew damn well she was not talking about her best friend. She was talking about him. I did not even flinch. I just told her that I had already given the reservation to my brother, David, and his wife. I made up some excuse about how it was non-refundable, and they agreed to pay me back later. This morning, I canceled every reservation except for that one. And guess what? David is coming with me. Luckily, the hotel let us switch out of the honeymoon suite into a room with 2 beds. There is also a lake nearby with boat rentals, so now, what was supposed to be a romantic getaway with my wife has turned into a long overdue fishing trip with my brother. And honestly, I think I like this version of the trip better. The best part? I do not have to call her. I do not have to text her. I do not have to talk to her at all. At least for a few days. That alone lifts some of the weight off my shoulders. Right now, I cannot see any way forward that does not end in divorce. David supports me in that, but he has asked me to take a little time to think before making any final decisions. His wife knows a couples counselor, Lisa, and she has offered to talk to me on Monday. I doubt it will change my mind, but maybe it will help me process everything. In the meantime, I am also taking some advice I have received from people online. I am reaching out to a lawyer. If this is heading toward divorce, I want to do it right. I have never thought of my wife as someone who would try to take advantage of me, but then again, I never thought she would cheat either. At this point, I need to be prepared for anything. For now, I am going to try to enjoy this weekend as much as possible. Update: this weekend changed everything. A lot has happened in the last few days. Let me start with the less important stuff. David and I drove almost 5 hours to the Vineyard Bed and Breakfast. He has always been there for me, but I cannot tell you how much I appreciate him being here right now. The whole drive there, I just vented. Got it all out. He let me talk, listened, and did not judge. By the time we got to the hotel, I was drained. David wanted to go out for dinner, but I just wanted to be alone for a little while. He went out to eat and brought me back some food. He also managed to rent a boat for the next day. On Saturday, we hit the water. The owner of the bed and breakfast knew about our situation, how this was supposed to be a romantic getaway, but things had changed. They were nice enough to pack us a cooler of food and drinks. Said it was their way of making the package more practical for two brothers. It was a kind gesture. Fishing sucked, though. We caught a couple of trout, but they were too small to keep. After we called it quits, we spent the rest of the afternoon driving around, hitting every vineyard and fruit stand we passed. We bought a bunch of food and wine for David's wife, Jessica. That night, we went out for steak and ordered the biggest tomahawk we could find. Sunday, we drove back to David's house. Jessica was there waiting for us. We sat outside, cracked open a bottle of white wine, and for a moment, I felt, okay. Then the weekend ended. Jessica had something to tell me. While we were gone, she had decided to do some digging. She followed my wife. And what she found? It destroyed any last shred of doubt I had left. She told me that the guy had been at my house on Friday night. All night. On Saturday morning, she managed to get there just as he was leaving. She tailed him back to his apartment and found out where he lived. Then came the worst part. My wife stayed over there on Saturday night. The same night she was texting me, telling me she loved me. That she missed me. Jessica said she split her time between visiting family and keeping an eye on my wife. On Sunday morning, she just happened to catch my wife leaving his apartment. She took pictures. Pictures of them hugging. Kissing. I did not even want to see them. But I did not need to. That was it for me. She had lied straight to my face. I would never be able to trust her again. If she could say I love you to me while sneaking out of another man's apartment, then I knew there was no coming back from this. Still, I kept my emotions in check. I did not want to make any rash decisions based purely on anger. That is when Jessica told me she had arranged for Lisa, the counselor, to come over for dinner. I had not been sure about talking to a counselor at first, but I decided to go along with it. Lisa was kind. Understanding. She made me feel like I did not need to have my guard up, and for the first time since this whole mess started, I actually talked. Not venting. Not just rage talking. Really talking. I did not realize how badly I needed that. After dinner, Lisa and I went for a walk around the neighborhood with the dogs. She listened. She let me get everything out. It felt different from talking to David. As much as I trust my brother, this was someone completely outside the situation. Someone with no personal stake in it. It was exactly what I needed. By the end of our walk, Lisa gave me only one real piece of advice. Do not delay talking to your wife. She told me that the longer I waited, the harder it would be. That even if I was sure of my decision, I still needed clarity. And the only person who could give me that was her. That night, David and Jessica told me I could stay with them for as long as I needed. I appreciated the offer, but I knew David and I would eventually get on each other's nerves in close quarters. So, I called my boss. I had been staying in company housing every other week when I worked on site, but on my days off, I had to leave. I asked if there was any way I could stay there full-time for a few months. He made it happen. I told Lisa I wanted to meet with her again later this week. She agreed. Sunday night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out how I was going to do this. How do you confront someone you loved for 20 years? Someone you built a life with? Someone who shattered everything you thought you knew? Even just imagining the conversation made my stomach turn. I felt sick. But I knew I had to do it. So, I made a plan. I was going to drive home. Pack up some of my things. Then, I was going to tell her that she had one chance, to be honest with me. If she lied, even once, I was gone. I would never look back. The moment of truth. Writing everything down has been the only thing keeping me sane. It helps me make sense of all the thoughts running wild in my head. That is why I keep doing it. That is why I am here. Lisa, the counselor, gave me one piece of advice. Do not put off the conversation with your wife. She told me that the longer I waited, the harder it would become. She said I needed clarity, and the only person who could give me that was my wife. That stuck with me. That night, David and Jessica offered to let me stay with them for as long as I needed. I appreciated it, but I knew David and I had a time limit before we started driving each other crazy. So, I talked to my boss. For the last few months, I had been staying in company housing every other week while working on site, but I had to leave on my days off. I asked him if there was any way I could stay there full-time for a while. He made it happen. At least now I had a place of my own, away from everything. Before I left, I scheduled another session with Lisa. I figured our walk counted as my first session, but I knew I needed more. She agreed to meet me later in the week. That Sunday night, I lay in bed thinking about how to approach this. No matter how I imagined the conversation, it ended the same way, either with me getting angry, or with me feeling sick to my stomach. Eventually, I decided I would just wing it. I tend to do well under pressure. Going home. Yesterday morning, I said my goodbyes to David and Jessica, then started the drive back home. The entire way there, I kept thinking, what if he is there when I arrive? The thought made my blood boil. If I saw his truck in my driveway again, I knew I would not be able to stay calm. It would just put me right back in that angry, reckless mindset. So, instead of pulling straight into the driveway, I decided to drive by first. Her car was not there. Neither was his truck. I parked down the street, went inside, and started grabbing everything that mattered to me. Family photos. A few heirlooms. Anything I knew I would not want to part with. Once I had it all packed up in my truck, I drove straight to his place. Her car was not there, but his truck was. I pulled over and sent her a message. Where are you? She responded quickly. Just picking up some groceries. At this point, I trusted her so little that I actually drove to the grocery store to confirm she was there. She was. I feel ashamed admitting that. I never thought I would be that guy, the one who checks up on his wife like some paranoid stalker. But my trust is broken. And at this point, it is the only way I can be sure of anything. I messaged her again. Come home. We need to talk. Her response? What is wrong? I just replied, you need to be ready to be honest. Then I turned my phone off. 15 minutes later, she walked through the front door. She came straight toward me like nothing was wrong, reaching out for a hug and a kiss like she always did. I turned away. That is when she knew something was off. What is going on? She asked again. I looked her straight in the eye. You need to start being honest with me. She blinked a few times, trying to process what I meant. Then, as expected, she played dumb. Honest about what? I do not know what you are talking about. I had prepared for this. Okay, I said, nodding. If you cannot be honest, then I am leaving. That is when she started panicking. Her face went pale, and she suddenly blurted out, Are you talking about yoga? I crossed my arms. Why? Is there something you want to tell me about yoga? She looked down. Her voice was quieter when she spoke next. I haven't been going. At least she had stopped lying about that. The conversation. Here is a breakdown of how the rest of the conversation went. Me, if you were not going to yoga, then where were you going? Her, I was just taking walks to relax. I have been so stressed lately. Me, what exactly has been stressing you out? And why did you feel the need to lie to me about it? Her, the move. Just everything going on. It has been overwhelming, and I did not know how to tell you. Me, so your solution was to lie? Why did you feel like you could not just tell me you were going for a walk? I was afraid that my stress would make you more stressed. I was trying to protect you. Me, but I am not stressed. And you still are not telling me everything. What do you mean? I exhaled slowly, clenching my jaw. At that moment, I realized what was happening. She was going to make me drag it out of her. She was not going to just come out and say it. She was going to lie, then half admit something, then pretend she did not know what I meant over and over again until I lost my patience. And the worst part? She actually thought she could talk her way out of this. But she had no idea that I already knew everything. The lies keep coming. I let out a slow breath, trying to keep my patience. I think you are lying about more than just skipping yoga. I am asking you again to be honest with me. You have already lied once, so this will not work if you keep lying. She hesitated, shifting her weight from one foot to the other. Then, as if a light bulb had gone off in her head, she suddenly blurted out. Oh. Are you talking about last weekend? When I went for drinks with some friends and came home late? I had a feeling that bothered you. I blinked. I had no idea she had gone out drinking last weekend. I was working a couple of hours away. Is that what you actually did that night? I asked, crossing my arms. Or was that a lie, too? She looked uncomfortable. I went for drinks, she admitted, but I did not see Rachel, the friend I told you I was with that night. Then who did you see? No one, she said quickly. I just drank alone. You drink alone now? She let out a nervous laugh. Yeah. Maybe I have a problem. Maybe, I said flatly. We will talk about that later. But right now, this is your last chance, tell me the truth, or I am leaving. She hesitated. I do not know what else to say. That was all I needed to hear. Okay, I said, standing up. I am leaving. She stood frozen as I grabbed my bag. Walking away. Whenever we had an argument, I would usually go for a drive to cool off. She probably thought that was what this was. Until she noticed what I had taken. My clothes. My toiletries. My Xbox. That is when my phone started blowing up. I did not answer at first. I just drove. But she kept calling. Over and over again. Eventually, I picked up. I gave you a chance to be honest, I told her. You didn't take it. So now, there is nothing left to say. She started crying. Begging me to come home. Saying she had no idea why I was so upset or what I thought she had done. Telling me she loved me. That she would never hurt me. Hearing her say those words, the same words I had believed without question for years, felt like someone was slowly sawing into my chest with a jagged, rusty knife. I hung up. She called me 40 times before I answered again. This time, her tone was different. Did you talk to Rachel? She asked. Rachel. Her best friend. I frowned. Why? Come home, she said quickly. I do not want to say this over the phone. I was skeptical, but I agreed. I needed time to calm down anyway. So I drove around a little longer. Then I went home. The story changes again. When I walked through the door, she was already sitting on the couch, hands clasped together, eyes red from crying. I assume you spoke to Rachel, she asked. I just stared at her. She let out a shaky breath. Well, a few weeks ago, while you were at work, Rachel and I went out for drinks, she began. A couple of guys started buying us drinks, and we just played along. Played along. Of course. When we were leaving, one of the guys tried to kiss me, she continued. I pulled away immediately. I told him I was married. I felt so guilty afterward. I wanted to tell you, but I was an idiot and just decided to hide it. I stayed quiet. Rachel hooked up with the other guy, she added quickly, and she gave his friend my number without asking me. He has texted me a few times, but I have never written him back. I nodded slowly. Let me see your phone. She froze for a second. Then, hesitantly, she handed it over. I opened her messages. They were completely empty. The only conversations there were with me and her mother. I knew for a fact she never deleted her texts. So this was new. I moved to her photos. Also wiped clean. Then I checked the deleted folder. And there it was. A picture of some guy I did not recognize. I turned the screen toward her. Who is this? The final lies. I held up the phone, showing her the photo of the guy. Who is this? She barely looked at it before responding. That is the guy who tried to kiss me. I frowned. Why did you take a picture of him? Her eyes darted away. I was just being stupid. That is not an answer. Why did you take a picture of him? I do not know. I stared at her. Is that everything you want to tell me, or is there more? She hesitated for just a second too long. Then she swallowed hard and said, that is all I can think of. I exhaled slowly, nodding to myself. That was all I needed to hear. I turned and walked out. Leaving again. She followed me to the door, calling after me, but I did not stop. By the time she made it outside, I was already in my truck. I drove off without looking back. I found myself at a park, sitting on the tailgate of my truck, eating a sandwich that I barely tasted. My mind was replaying every moment of our marriage, sifting through memories I had ignored for too long. The red flags I should have seen. So many moments I should have questioned. So many signs I brushed off because I trusted her. Like the time I was working a weekend shift. She had gone out to a club with some girlfriends. I had gone to bed early, but when I woke up at 4 in the morning, she still was not home. I called her a few times. No answer. Half an hour later, she finally called me back, sounding out of breath. She asked me to pick her up. When I got there, she told me they had been trying to get a taxi, but none were available. Then, out of nowhere, a couple of guys, friends of her friend, offered them a ride but said they had to stop at their place first. When they got to the guy's house, her married friend disappeared into a bedroom with one of them. She told me she tried looking for her friend but eventually gave up and had a drink in the kitchen with the roommates while she waited. She also claimed she never heard my calls. We fought about it, and she acted disgusted by her friend's behavior. She even cut that friend out of her life. I thought that was the end of it. Then there was another time. She had traveled to visit a close friend in another city. It was supposed to be a girls' night. For women, getting drunk, watching movies in their pajamas. At least, that was what she told me. At 1 in the morning, she called to say goodnight. We talked for about 20 minutes, and she kept telling me how great of a girls' night they were having. Then I heard a man's voice in the background. I asked who it was. She denied hearing anything at first. Then it happened again, louder. She could not deny it anymore. Oh, yeah, she finally admitted. Ashley brought a couple of guys with her. Everyone here is super mad about it. She was drunk. 3 hours away. What was I supposed to do? I had no choice but to trust her. We fought about it later, about why she never told me there were guys there. She swore up and down that she would never put herself in that type of situation again. Clearly, that promise did not mean a damn thing. The final confrontation. After thinking about all of that, I knew what I had to do. I turned my phone back on. Almost immediately, it rang. She was screaming for me to come home. I drove back. When I walked inside, she was curled up on the couch, rocking back and forth, sobbing. She kept repeating, "I am so sorry. I am so sorry." I stood there, staring at her. Sorry for what? She just kept crying. Rocking back and forth like she had lost her mind. It took her 5 full minutes to calm down enough to speak. I lied about the guy who tried to kiss me. I stayed silent, waiting. Okay, I finally said. Tell me what happened. Her voice was barely above a whisper. The 4 of us actually went back to his place that night. We fooled around. My stomach twisted. I had known. Of course, I had known. But hearing her say it out loud made everything real in a way I had not been ready for. The room felt smaller. The air felt thicker. I could hear my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I felt dizzy. Like a million voices were speaking over each other inside my head. I turned away from her and walked straight to the bathroom. I ran the sink, splashing cold water on my face until the room stopped spinning. Then, I went back out. I looked her dead in the eyes. What did you do? She hesitated. Then, in the smallest voice, she asked. Do you want me to actually tell you? The truth comes out. I stared at her, my hands clenched into fists at my sides. Yes. She swallowed hard, wiped her tear-streaked face, and then said it. He fingered me. She hesitated. And I gave him a blowjob. I closed my eyes for a moment, forcing myself to stay calm. Was that it? Yes. I let out a slow breath. I am not playing this game with you, I said firmly. You either tell me everything right now, or this will be the last time we ever speak. She broke down again, sobbing into her hands. It took her several minutes before she could speak. Then she looked up at me, her face red and swollen. We met up again, and had sex. My stomach twisted, but I kept my expression blank. I am so sorry, she sobbed. I love you. I will do anything to make up for this. I tilted my head, watching her carefully. Just the one time? She hesitated. Then she gave me a desperate look. If I tell you the truth, please give me a chance to do anything I can to make up for it. Please. I exhaled slowly. I will think about it. She wiped her nose with the back of her hand and finally admitted, it was an affair. We had been hooking up while you were out of town for work. It has been going on for almost a month now. He is married, and they are about to get divorced. I nodded slowly. Does he know you are married? Yes. So, if he is having an affair because his marriage is failing, does that mean you think ours is failing? Is that what you told him? She shook her head violently. No. I do not think our marriage is failing. I am so stupid. I hate myself. Please do not leave me. I can fix this. How? Whatever you want. I stared at her. If you were in my shoes, or even his wife's shoes, what would fix this for you? She bit her lip. Knowing the truth. Being able to trust you. You can trust me. I screwed up, and I will never do it again. I scoffed. If you were his wife, would you want to know the truth? She closed her eyes, then whispered, yes. Then fix this. Her hands started shaking. You want me to call her? If you think that is what you would want. She tried calling. His wife did not answer. A few minutes later, her phone rang. It was listed as Rachel, work. She looked like she had seen a ghost. I knew damn well that was not Rachel. Is that him? She swallowed. Yes. I grabbed the phone and answered. Oops, I must have the wrong number, he said. No, you do not, I replied. This is the husband of the woman you have been sleeping with. I am going to let her speak to you, because she has something to say. I passed the phone to her. She hesitated before putting it to her ear. I told him everything, she said. He knows the whole truth. We are done. It was just a fling, and now you need to never contact me again. I took the phone from her before she could hang up. What divorce lawyer are you using? I asked him. There was silence on the other end. I am not getting divorced, he finally said. I raised an eyebrow. Oh? But did you not tell my wife that you were? No. I let that sit in the air for a moment. Okay then, I said. Can I speak to your wife? I think she has just as much right to know about this as I do. Please, man, he said quickly. I did not know she was married. Do not ruin my marriage over a mistake. You ruined mine over a mistake, I shot back. It is only fair that I tell your wife. Please do not, he begged. She is at work right now. I will tell her everything when she gets home. I swear. I sighed. Okay. You do that. And I hung up. Telling his wife. I turned to my wife. Do you know where his wife works? She nodded. Call her. She hesitated for only a moment before dialing the number. A woman answered. Hello? My wife took a shaky breath. Hi. Are you sitting down? Why? What is going on? Is something wrong with my husband? No, no. He is at your apartment right now. I just wanted to let you know. She paused. Then she said it. We have been having an affair for a month now. I am coming clean to my husband, and I thought you should be given the same respect. There was a long silence. Then his wife spoke. If this is some kind of sick joke, I will find out who you are. Then she hung up. Not even 10 minutes later, my wife got a text from Rachel, work. Thanks. You just ruined my life. I took the phone and typed back. You just ruined 4 lives and 2 marriages. Do not forget that this was your fault, you piece of expletive. The fallout. For the next hour, my wife begged and pleaded with me to stay with her. She offered counseling. She swore she would never leave my side. She even tried to throw sex into the bargain, as if that would somehow fix everything. Then, she suggested we still go on that vacation. We need time away, she said. Quality time together. Your work schedule has been pushing us apart. I almost laughed. She was not expecting me to tell her that I went on the trip anyway. She was not expecting me to tell her that I had already booked counseling for myself. She definitely was not expecting me to tell her that I caught her cheating on my very own bed. Her eyes went wide. Her face turned white. And then, she collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. She started mumbling about how she did not deserve to live. She begged me to just kill her right now because she was too terrible to be with anyone. It went on like that for a while. I stayed for 4 hours. I listened to her make excuses. I let her try to hug me. I let her try to cuddle me. I even let her try to go down on me in one last desperate attempt to keep me there. And then, I called Rachel. Your cheating friend is suicidal, I told her. You should come keep an eye on her. Then I left. The aftermath. It has been almost a full day since everything went down. I have not spoken to her since. She has been calling and texting me non-stop. Her friends. Her family. All of them with different excuses. Different pleas for empathy. Only one person has been honest with me. Her father. He sent me a message that said, "You need to do what is best for you. I will always love you like a son, no matter what happens." Reading that? That was what finally broke me. That was the first time I actually cried. Tomorrow, I meet with Lisa, my counselor. Thursday, I meet with a lawyer. I think I know where this is going. But until it happens, I am not sure about anything. I just know that venting like this helps. And to everyone who has reached out, offering their own stories, thank you. You are helping me feel less broken. You are giving me hope.